In this video series, I'm sharing key insights from my new book, Humanocracy, co-authored with Michele Zanini. Insight number 4, anybody can hack management. You may be wondering, if you want to bust bureaucracy, how do you get started? How do you uproot something that's so deeply embedded and well defended? What's required is an approach that is both revolutionary and evolutionary, that's radical in its aspirations yet pragmatic in its approach. In practice, this means running lots of experiments. This is how human beings test wacky ideas without blowing things up. Before sending an astronaut into space, we launch a monkey or two. Before putting a new drug on the market, we test it on rats. Luckily, in the case of Humanocracy, no animal testing is required unless, of course, you count us. But the secret here is to think like a hacker. Not the ones who steal your credit card data, but the ones who post brilliant bits of code on GitHub. Hackers don't wait to be asked. They don't think that's somebody else's problem. Instead, they take the initiative. They act as if they have the permission, whether or not they do. The term hacker first came to prominence in the 1990s as a label for renegade coders who were committed to undermining the hegemony of Microsoft and other software giants by producing free, community-authored software. Linus Torvalds, the world's most famous hacker, released the first version of Linux in 1991 and invited other hackers to make it better. Today, Linux encompasses more than 26 million lines of code assembled by more than 16,000 contributors. Could rebel hackers have the same dramatic improvement on management they've had on software? We think so. To build your management hack, start by asking yourself, what management process or system does most to undermine initiative and innovation? Then ask, what post-bureaucratic principles might help us change this? How would this process be different if we took these principles seriously? Once you have a tentative hack, share it with a few colleagues. Key questions to address include, what's the proposed solution in a single sentence? What are the key components of the hack? What hypotheses do I need to test? Who will participate in the experiment? And what sort of data am I going to collect? Here's a quick example of a hack that was run in a large European pharmaceutical company. A group of managers were frustrated by the company's onerous travel policies. There were strict guidelines on who could travel, for what purposes, on which airlines, and in what class of service. Hotel and rental car choices were similarly constrained. There were also tight limits on food and beverage spending. As one manager groused, I'm responsible for $70 million in sales, but when I'm traveling, I have to check whether I'll get reimbursed for a $3 cup of coffee. The experiment, modeled on the company's methodology for drug trials, involved 2 pairs of treatment and control groups, one pair at head office and the other in an operating unit. The experiment was designed to test the hypothesis that increased autonomy and transparency around travel would simplify travel planning, reduce travel frustration, and not raise costs. 50 people were recruited for each group for a sample of 200 individuals. The treatment groups were told that for the next 90 days, they'd be able to make their own travel arrangements with no pre-trip authorizations and no post-trip audits. The catch? All of their travel expenses would be posted online for everyone to see. At the end of the trial, the team analyzed the results. A large majority of those in the 2 treatment groups reported that the new process was less time-consuming than the old one. What was more surprising was that 45% of the participants said the simple rule change had increased their overall job satisfaction. Just as importantly, travel costs fell for the treatment groups while remaining unchanged for the control groups. Most of us quietly bear the burden of bureaucracy. We are resigned to the ponderous structures and convoluted processes that put a headlock on initiative and lead boots on creativity. We wrongly assume that we have neither the capacity nor the warrant to reinvent how our organizations work. But here's the thing. Anyone can hack management. So if you're tired of the bureaucratic bullshit in your organization, stop bitching and start hacking.